I'm going to be sowing some green manure today. One of the reasons you do this is to protect your soil. So as soon as you've got a bare patch, so for example, when your broad beans are finished, you want to cover that soil if you're not going to be sowing any more legumes in there. And where I'm sowing it is we're using this little area here as a bit of a wildlife patch. So we've taken out some plants from here, we had some chard in, and we're going to be sowing a mix today called toboggan mix. And in that mix, one of the reasons this is useful for here is this is to encourage bee forage in summer and autumn. And it's got a mix of plants in here. So we've got phacelia, buckwheat, mustard, dill, cornflower, borage. So quite an array of items. One of the great reasons to sow a green manure is to protect your soil. So you don't want to have lots of runoff, you don't want the soil to get dry and cracked, you want to try and prevent weeds. And these things, when they root, are helping open up that soil, bringing in microorganisms and putting in lots of goodness when you then either dig them in or do the chop and drop method. One of the problems with green manures is timings. So some of them will only allow you to sow sort of from April to July, so things like alfalfa. Quite a lot of them will allow you to sow through to August. But if you've got gaps later on, like we tend to when we're taking out roots, some of the brassicas, you need to be looking for a winter mix, something like winter tares. And at the moment, Garden Organic are doing a trial on green manures just for that sort of purpose, to see if which ones will stand during the winter for you and which ones will germinate. You can see that I've raked over this area and I've got out the bulk of the weeds. I'm not too fussed here because this is a wildlife area and your weeds are just as important for wildlife. However, if you're doing it in a cultivated area, you're going to want to take out all your weeds first, rake it to a nice fine tilth, and then you can either sow it in rows if you prefer, or as I'm going to do today, broadcast it generally. I then tend to tamp this down slightly with the head of my rake to make sure it's got good contact with the soil, and then I'll lightly sort of rake over just so that it's got a smattering over the top and water it in.